Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow.
Board on this computer. Okay. All right. So, picking up on the topic we left off on or introduced in the last episode of just the overturning of Roe versus Wade, we did get an awesome email from a friend of Amber's that had tons of information and links in there about just all things about the Roe versus Wade and different articles of the damage it could do and this and that. And just before we were like press record, Amber and I started talking about this. And so Carolyn is her name. I hope she doesn't mind that we mentioned that. But she wrote us like a 4-page letter and kind of talking about a little bit of where her background was on the subject. And so that brought up the fact that we have a hard time thinking about other people's perspectives sometimes, and especially on a subject like this, I think that we both feel super passionate about and have our own feelings and beliefs for whatever reasons. And mine have never changed. They've always, I think, been the same on it. I've always thought that it's, it's your choice as a human being. But yeah, so when you're so kind of just like in it, and it's something that's so just, I think, affects the individual so much that it's really hard for
like
me
a personal attack.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to think about anyone else's opinion who is against it and like why it would matter. I'm just like, no, you're wrong, and you shouldn't be able to tell someone else what to do. But it's not always that black and white as to like how they came to their decision. How they were raised and things like that really come into play. And if people have, been raised in very religious households or conservative areas, and that's just the only thing they knew. And there's still people like that in our country who grow up in certain areas, and they only know what they know. No matter where you're from, you only know what you know. So there's just a lot of people who aren't actually educated on it that do need to be educated on the topic, and maybe that would open up their mind and they would be able to just have a better view about it and vote or something. Maybe people don't want to because they just don't know enough and they've just been taught it was wrong. But yeah, it's just it's tough on this one to ever to understand why people would be against it, other than that's just what they were taught and don't know any better. But then it's like at a certain point you have to learn and you have to know better,
form your own opinion.
Like,
I was talking to Caroline a little bit and I was like, hey, thank you for sharing the background of your Catholic upbringing and all this stuff. And she was like, yeah, it's kind of like hard to talk about because like you feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed. And for me, I was baptized and raised Mormon, and it's honestly not our fault, the surroundings that we were brought up in. You know what I mean? It's your fault to grow up and then look at the world and start forming your own opinions, and either sticking with the ones that you were raised with or forming some of your own. So like, it's just all dependent. There's just so many, like you said, there's so many factors and so many variables as to like why people start forming these opinions and becoming who they become. But at the end of the day, there's right and wrong.
Exactly. And there's a certain point in which, that you have to, like you said, be able to formulate your own opinion. So it's not your fault where you have no choice of where you're raised or how you're raised. And until your mind does start to grow and you start to see other things happening around you, and then you start to question things of like, wait, like what, like
Yeah.
why do we say this and this person says that? But if you live a completely sheltered life, you might not even see any of that outside opinion until much later in life, and then it's just harder to get out of that shell that you were in. And it's just crazy that with all the information available these days, so easily available, kids have iPhones at like 8 years old, and I know there's controls and things like that, but I being in middle school or high school these days, it's much different than even when we were, which in the grand scheme of things wasn't that long ago. And once you start to, as a teenager, maybe question some things, it's so much easier, I feel like, for kids these days to get information and kind of change their mind. But again, it doesn't mean it's easy, especially if you're still living at home and with a family who is maybe of the conservative mindset or whatever it is. If you're starting to think differently than your family, it can be very hard then to navigate.
Yes, especially when you're taught to like obey and be obedient and do as you're told and listen to and trust your people that are guiding you through this life. You know what I mean? That's all you know. That's your home. That's your safety. And
exactly,
to be guided by people who are so skewed, and the fact that the skewed views spread so far and wide, and that people start truly believing these false things. It's so fucking scary.
Well, exactly. And so, I mean, think about it. I don't know if you know anybody personally. I have a friend who I think is still a little bit, I don't know that like scared is the right term, but like afraid of the opinion of her parents. And I mean, you should obviously respect your parents, your elders, and things like that. I do think there's, if you have a good relationship, there's plenty of parents who I wouldn't say necessarily like deserve respect if they've haven't been there for you at all in your life, but you still have to be able to be your own person around them, but that also takes growth on their part, and the older generations are just not into growth. They're like, this is the way I am and nothing can change, and that's just such a false narrative. Like, you're just like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm like, fucking, that's just such bullshit.
It is such bullshit,
especially when it comes to a human being. You're an adult, you can differentiate what's right and wrong, and you can change your mind, and you can change the way you react to things. You just have to try. And so it's hard when the people that like raised you or whatever maybe are stuck in their ways, but catering to that isn't going to help either. And we're catering to that right now. We're catering to these old people's mindsets, and it's just stupid. And so I was super fired up to talk about this yesterday as I read this document from Caroline, and I still am, and I still think we definitely need to talk about it. But just to be honest as well, I'm kind of in like another little bit of a fog, because it's Wednesday the 25th now, and I'm sure this will go out today, but still people listening may not listen to on the day. But yesterday, the 24th, was another school shooting in the country. And so in our last episode, I mentioned, like, with all the other shit going on in the world, how is Roe versus Wade, like, why is it coming up? And then this proves the point of like, okay, fucking school shootings or mass, there's the Buffalo incident, all the other things happening. That's in our face. This is a fucking problem. And Roe versus Wade is on the table.
like people are actually dying.
Yes.
Innocent children. Innocent people going to the grocery store are fucking dying because there's no laws on guns.
And it feeds back into, the Roe versus Wade thing, because even before this happened, it was the topic of conversation of about, okay, how can you you want to ban abortions and people's right to bear children or whatever, but you don't take care of the children that are already living in this country in many ways, education, food, just all sorts of different ways. And then one of them is the fact that kids can go to school and die.
Yeah.
So now you, like, it's a real thing in to be afraid to have a child because of the world that we live in. It
Yeah.
doesn't just have to be that, oh, I'm selfish and I want an abortion because I don't want to like raise another human. I don't want to spend my money on a kid. I don't want to take the time. It's not about selfishness. It's about
Making sound choices.
Yeah, and
for your
quality of
personal
life.
Yes.
So
Your
if you're
family.
if you're in a financial bind already, then yeah, how can you afford to give a good quality of life to another human being? But also, I mean, I have said this, and I've said it to Andrew's sister and brother-in-law. I was like, I'm because they will ask us about like kids and whatever. I'm like, I have no idea. I've never said like a hard yes or a hard no, but I will tell you that I'm fucking scared as shit of the world right now. And when I think about having a kid, I think about like the future. I don't want to have a kid right now just so I can like
carry on your genetics.
Yeah. And I mean, there's times I think it'd be so cool, you know, to have a little mini me or something and teach a kid everything I love and hope, you know, that they enjoy it. But you never know, they might be totally different than you anyways. But also I'm like, the state of the world has me terrified. Like, will my kid even be able to play outside? You know, like, are they gonna be able to have kids? Like, am I gonna
snowmobiling, enjoy snow, have water?
Exactly. Like, so are they going to be able to play outside at all? Because kids these days don't even do it the way we did it for many reasons. But and they're, you know, had a comment of like, you're not letting fear stop you or anything. I'm outside, and with this microphone I can hear the dogs carrying shit around. Hopefully it's not too distracting. But so yeah, like, yes, I am also a believer in like not letting fear hold you back, but the decision of, it's not just like, oh, should I decide to go to Mexico? I'm a little scared of this or that, or no, it's like, this is having a kid and their whole life, you know, who knows, 100 years by the time our kids are older or whatnot. So I don't think it's not as simple as saying like, don't let fear hold you back. Like, if wanting a kid, there's so much to go into it. So
yeah, especially if you are a human who is, I don't know how to say this without sounding rude, but like someone who's like a sound human being who's making right choices, who's trying to do their best, as opposed to like the people who are on drugs or like have like drug addiction problems and are just like popping out kids left and right. It's totally like the idiocracy problem of like the people who are better fit to be parents are the ones who are choosing not to have children.
Yes.
And the ones who aren't the greatest fit to be having children are having children because they've got other shit going on, and like this society has failed them. Their parents have failed, whatever brought them to where they are in life, mental health issues. There's an array of factors in this life that bring us down as human beings. And that's not to say that like tomorrow our house could catch on fire and we could be homeless and not be fit parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that can happen.
Yeah.
So many things.
So it's just, again, and not a black and white thing. It's not just like, oh, you're selfish if you want one, or I mean, I think it could be selfish sometimes to decide to have a kid because you just like, want to carry your genetics on or something egotistical or have that little legacy. And you're not thinking about the future of anyone else's life, like your partners or the future child's or anything like that. And you just never know why people are making the decision they're making. Like maybe they do have a genetic
trait that they could
yeah.
carry on. Yeah.
And so who are you to judge someone when they're like when they know that something could happen and they just don't want to risk that. And I know these days there's a lot of genetic testing available. However, that's after the fact, right? So you've gotten pregnant, you do the genetic testing, and then you find out whether the genes have passed on or not. And if abortion is illegal and they've passed on, and you know that like this child may have this, whatever choice you decide to make is up to you, but you won't even have one. So what's the point of even doing genetic testing? Like, because maybe you'll just be more prepared to know that like my child is going to have a disability and this is what our life might look like, and have a few months to get a little more prepared, but with our health system. And like I said, I mean, it's up to you if you to do that. I have a family member who has a genetic disease and has had a couple of kids, and that's totally her choice, like to do that. I'm just saying that there are people who may not want to because of that, and there may be people who are okay with that.
Yeah, because they're like, I've lived my whole life with this genetic whatever, and the people before me have, and so the whole point of it is it's your choice. It's your personal choice. Fucking choice.
And so then with Caroline in her document, and I really liked her. So she went to a rally, and I think I mentioned too in the last one that a friend and I were having margaritas and there was a rally going on next to us, and we were a little bit conflicted of, are we huge pieces of shit for not attending this and sitting right here and drinking? And it's like, no, I mean, there are plenty of other ways to be involved, and you don't have to go to every single thing. And I think that it's great to be there, but it also doesn't, if you're not there, it doesn't mean that you don't care.
But also capacity, like the capacity for us to be able to hold in our hearts and in our heads all the shit that's fucking going on. You have to take mental health breaks. Like, yeah,
totally.
Honestly, since we last recorded, there has been 2 mass shootings. 2 mass shootings that have made headlines in the news, and like, we're still trying to process Roe versus Wade being on the chopping block. Like,
yeah, exactly.
We can't even like catch a fucking breath.
Well, let alone what's just going on in your personal life too, like anyone's personal life. But you know, it's been 2 weeks now. We thought we were gonna be able to record last week, and because you have a child, and so guess what? Things happen every day, even in your own life. Shit comes up. But and then especially when you have another human being to take care of, more shit comes up. Like, they're sick, they're out of school, like that has changed your whole schedule. Then you get sick. So all these things that going on all the time, like you said, capacity, you just may not be able to outwardly be there, and it doesn't mean you don't care. It just means like, holy crap, I need to take a moment because I can't really process anything that's going on right now. But with Carolyn brought some signs to the rally she went to, because a lot of signs are what I've seen, like bands off my body, my choice, like what she mentioned. Fully agree with all those, but she had some other ones there too, which I think are great because, as she said too, they were what did she say? Just wanted to send more of like a message, I think is what she said by her signs.
Put facts down as opposed to like opinions. So like factual things, like how abortion is like a fundamental human right for people. And it's supported by the UN. And
so abortion is healthcare. Abortion saves lives. to get confirmed, 5 justices lied on the stand, promote the general welfare preamble to the U.S. Constitution. Abortion access is a societal good according to the World Health Organization, UN Rights Committee, and Human Rights Watch. And she did link some articles in there for us too. And what I might do as well is put some of these articles like in the show notes for anyone who is interested in reading them further, because we're not gonna like open them up and read through all of these. But I mean, I think that's awesome, because there are a lot of these things that, like, yeah, you don't think of it. Even though I am pro-choice, I don't know if I would think of the wording of abortion saves lives. It's like, yeah, like that, you know, that makes a light bulb go off in your head, even for somebody who is like, and always has been pro-choice. You're like, yeah, because more people, again, quoting her fact of there's more deaths in childbirth than abortion.
Yes.
So there's myths out there that childbirth is safe. It's safer. Everything medically is safer than it once was.
Yes.
But it's still not. And as we've known with anything, banning something isn't going to stop it from happening. It's going to stop it from happening safely. And I don't want to dive into the whole gun rights situation or right now either, because I don't have enough to, again, just like with this, starting this, to back things up. But yes, no matter what restriction we put on it, it's still going to be possible, but it's going to be harder and thus safer. Abortion is opposite. Bans on this, it's still going to happen, and it's going to be more dangerous.
Yeah, like everyone's been a teenager throughout our lives, us adults, and when your parents told you couldn't do something, what the hell did you do?
Yeah.
You figured out a way to make it happen and lied about it.
Well, and so this is a stereotype, but I've definitely known people who've lived up to it. The folks in conservative religious schools and things like that, they were the first ones to be pregnant because they weren't taught birth control or sex education or anything. So when you're not teaching these, and the whole leading into overturning Roe versus Wade, that is a domino effect of restrictions on contraceptives, sex education. And it's already so restrictive in certain parts of the country because, again, of the folks who live in super religious or conservative areas who aren't being taught it in the first place. Now we're going to widespread that thought and just kind of pretend like, meh.
It's not. Yeah, especially in a day and age, in the day and age when you can look literally anything up on the internet.
Yep.
So the fact that like more false information could potentially be spread because people aren't talking about it. And honestly, I've already started to talk to Quincy about sex. He's 6.
Yeah. Well, so having an older brother who was 4 years older than me, which doesn't seem, there's certain parts in life where that seems bigger, like less than and more than, like 4 and 8. I don't know. Fine, you're playing. But there are times it's not like 14 and 10. And a boy and a girl, that could be a huge shift. Like a lot's happening to a 14-year-old boy. And here I am, a 10-year-old girl, like still in elementary school, playing with Barbies, doing whatever. And my brother, you know, going through puberty, whatever. He had like pictures of Carmen Electra, all these posters and things all over his walls. And my parents, you know, they didn't care. I'm sure they were concerned that like I went into his room, you know, we still like played and hung out together and stuff. So I'm being exposed to that at an even younger age, but I still like, I didn't get it. I wasn't
Or like when you were a kid and you would go to any dude's garage, man's garage, and you would see a woman up on the wall in like, it's pretty much nothing, tits and ass out, like posing over a car.
Yeah, totally.
It's in your face. And when you're like, the reason why I started talking to Quincy about it was because like, you know, stuff happens when you're younger. You get curious. You start like looking at your penis and being like, oh, this person has a vagina, I have a penis. And it's like starting to get to that point of like, so when do we stop letting our little children have naked baths with each other? Like, so when do we start talking about it? And honestly, the sooner the better, especially with all of these bans on things and like stuff on the chopping block. Who do you want to inform the younger generation? Some random friend at school, the internet, or you? And like, you need to open up healthy places for you, your children, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, who the fuck ever, to talk about these things, so that there's safe platforms.
Yeah, and they're not getting conflicting information where it's like, okay, Quincy goes off, and I mean, your nephew, you know, like he's still a kid, like so he could easily start talking, like just not know where understand like at what age like someone could understand. Like he could say something to Quincy and Quincy wouldn't like really get it, but then you say it to him and he's like, oh, what? Like I heard this, and just being so confused about things, hearing so many different things instead of just like, no, here's the truth. And people are afraid to talk about sex with their children. I never had the conversation with my parents. Like I said, my brother, and it's not like, I'm not saying my brother like taught me about, like told me about it or anything, but I was just like, kind of things just like happened around me and I figured it out.
But as they do in this life.
Like, but we're also from more of a liberal area and parents and things like that where I was able to figure it out, but there's plenty of people who aren't and might go hear something at school as simple as shit like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or something, right? Like you're trying so hard maybe to hold on to a belief with your kid, and then you know they go to school, an older kid or their friend's older sibling like tells them that it's not real, they come home crying and you're like, no, it's fine. And it's like, how long do you how long do you carry that on,
or
and when they ruin realize, like the magic? But when it comes to
kids realize that you've lied to them their whole lives, you know what I mean? It starts to put a question of trust. And then again, back to talking about like sex with people, like yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it's not really fun to talk about, but it truly just needs to be talked about, because that's the first step of making change. And
so I think that
there shouldn't be much shame in it. Like same with like masterbation. Like why were we taught to be shameful to masturbate, to give
you could go blind
pleasure? Yes.
It's like it's not moonshine, but but and I mean teaching kids earlier on, especially, you know, before puberty, because puberty is when the natural inclinations start to happen within your body, and like literally that's when you're starting to get attracted to people, and you might see a boy or a girl or whatever and feel something, and you're like, what is happening in my body? And you have no idea what's going on. But if you're not teaching kids anything and not teaching them like the consequences of it, then they're not gonna know. And if you're just like, just don't do it, you said there's that rebel mentality and they're gonna do it. But if you're not having real sex education classes like we had, where you're learning about STDs and pregnancy, then you're not even gonna know it's a fucking thing, and so you're not gonna care, and you're definitely gonna just not pay any attention and go about it in a careless way. And no, does it need to be a special like romantic act that you only do with one person and only when you love them? I don't think you need to teach that. Everyone's prerogative to do what they will with their kid, but it's an act, but you still need to know how to do it safely, which is to avoid diseases, consent and pregnancy. Because I mean, just the price of living as a single adult right now, I'm like, you know, I can't imagine someone in a position less than I am, whether they're a teenager or younger, just less privileged in any way, don't have any outside help or partner or anything like that. I can't imagine them not being able to make the decision to not
Yeah.
do that, and mental health then goes into it as well. Like there's so many fucking effects from it
So many
that no
things.
one's looking into. They just are saying like it's murder, and if you did the act, you should have to serve the consequences. It's like, it's not just oh, you stole something, now you go to jail for this amount of time or something. There's consequences far, far further down the line and longer that affect many, many, many more people. And Caroline, I did also send some articles about the criminalization of miscarriages, which I will link to because I haven't had the chance to go through all of those. And that's just insane because, again, I've known handfuls of people who've had miscarriages. And so
out of their control. Nobody fucking wants a miscarriage. Nobody fucking wants an abortion.
Exactly. That too.
These are just things. These are
yeah.
I just can't believe that this is on the chopping block. And for what? Like, everyone has sex, right? Well, if you're, you know what I mean? Like, this is the whole fucking reason why we as a human species are on this planet, is to spread our seed. And in addition to that, it fucking feels good. It's fun. It's great. I love having sex, but we need to talk to people about accepting that, yes, it's pleasurable and you can find pleasure in it. And yes, there are multiple consequences, but there are also preventative measures. There are smart ways to go about it. And consent's a big one. Contraceptive is, and there's multiple ways that we can protect ourselves from having children. And abortion is one of them. And I've had quite a few conversations with a conservative friend of mine who was raised Catholic. And I think solely because of that, he has his opinions, which I said he shouldn't have any opinions on whatever a woman friggin' wants to do with her body. But he has multiple opinions about abortion. And a big thing that he talks to me about a lot is at what point is it okay to have an abortion? At like 20 weeks, 30 weeks, like at what point? And to be honest, there are so many factors, and like, I can't say too much because it just is all dependent and it's all variable. I know a woman who at 20 weeks found out that her baby that she was carrying was going to be born with a heart defect and might not make it to term. And if the baby did make it to term, it would die shortly afterwards. And who the fuck wants to go into that? And with the technology that we have now to prevent someone from facing that, if you can, why not? If we have all this medical technology, why not be able to face that? And another thing, all those billboards that are like, this is a fetus at 8 weeks. Fucking bullshit. I will tell you this. I had an abortion and I was within the time allotment to be able to have an abortion. So it's like 8 weeks and prior. I made the choice for multiple reasons. And during this abortion, I asked the provider if I could see what it looks like, I can't remember how far, we'll just say that I was like 7 weeks. I wanted to see what the fetus looked like. And because man, the first trimester fucks me up. And it's not for every woman, but like, Jesus Christ, when a fetus is starting to take over my body, I hate being in my body. I feel like not myself. Foods that I did like, I absolutely hated, couldn't even finish, could barely drink water. Like, it was horrendous for me. And I just was like, I want to see what this thing is that has just like fucked my life up for the past few weeks looks like. And so she showed me, and it was this tiny clear sac, probably the size of like maybe like a mandarin orange, just like not as like perfectly round, probably smaller. And it had like clear stuff on the outside. Towards the center, it started to get a little bit more opaque. And then there were just like these teeny tiny little red veins in the center of it. So all this information that we're being fed, and like after that happened, and I was like, holy crap, that's what a 7-week fetus looks like. What the F is all this BS that I'm seeing on billboards, on the internet? And then when I went to go try to do an internet search to see what a 7-week fetus looked like, it showed pictures of like a full-on baby head growing. And I was just like, this is not real. This is not true. And I just like, not only was I dealing with the fact that I had to make this choice to have this abortion and accidentally got pregnant and did it, like the mental health things that went along with it. And then finding this information out, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know how to go about it, but I'm glad to know now that all the stuff that we're being showed is not true.
Right. And especially, I feel like depending on where you're at, again, if you are in a very conservative, like rural area, then you might see much more false information. And as much as we talked about how easy it is to get information, it's just as easy to get false information. So it is more important than ever to do your due diligence and research out of more than one source.
Yes.
And that is overwhelming. And I honestly get overwhelmed with even the simplest of things that I'm trying to learn or figure out. It could be like not political or anything at all.
Yeah, it could be like finding the right snow jacket, or like
it's like how to do a correct push-up.
Yes.
And you can find 500 different schools of thoughts, and they all have their, reasons and backups of why. And then you're just like, I don't fucking know who is right. But
who to trust.
There are those things where you can, that's really more subjective than objective. I always mix those terms up, but something like that, like, no, this is a 7-week fetus.
Yeah.
This baby on the billboard that is like a 9-month-old fetus is not comparable as to what you're saying it is. So, and there may be people, like you had no clue before that.
No
so there's
idea.
really plenty of people like that who are now terrified because they really do think that it's something that is much more formed and life like and living and heartbeat and that they can't like stomach the thought
pulling
of
at people's heartstrings with baby fingernails.
Yeah, totally. So it's just, it's a scare tactic. You're scaring people into doing something that they don't want to do for whatever reason. And why? What does it matter to you? What does it matter to you? I don't understand. And I don't know if any amount of articles I read about it will make me understand why you think that we have to bring more people into this world.
God.
Like, not if you want to go ahead, but why do you feel that you need to force people to do it if they don't want to? Like, are you just saying like put chastity belts on women or something? Like, do you want to go back to just a complete like rape and murder culture where like that's what men to get their fix of sex will do is rape and then murder a woman because they can't chance her getting pregnant because they have a family? And like, how are we going backwards in time in this? But we can't change the things that are actually killing living people, adults and children. And it's just, I don't know honestly where we wanted to go with this other than just being able to talk about it more than like 15 minutes and just bring it up and bring it to light that there's just so many reasons. And I think most people who would listen to this would be on our side anyways. And so I guess my point of talking about it would be to do exactly that, like fire you up to learn more about what the restriction or bans will do to empower you or motivate you to
Prevent.
to do the things, to vote, to look into how you're voting, and really pay more attention to that, because that's really all we can do. Like, yes, you can attend the rallies, do all that, support all the people. I'll also post all these organizations that Carolyn listed too, of how you can help if you are able to, or even just sharing those with whoever your audiences are, that are supporting the reproductive movement or justice, rather. And so, yeah, like I said, most people probably listening support it and just agree with us. But like you said, it's more to be like, okay, we do need to do something. And I felt often like in a position where I can't do anything with multiple things in the world, this topic and so many things. I just feel so helpless of like, what am I gonna do? You know, there's times I vote every year, but I still feel at times that it's useless, because I still think our government like just isn't
correct
always. Same. So I still feel like it doesn't do much, and I'm just like, we have to be more involved. And that is also, I think, a very good point of what Carolyn brought up, is that the Democratic side has, and I may be kind of butchering what she said and turning it into my own thought and opinion on it, of we have all more so become in this position of feeling helpless, thus just kind of not learning more, whereas the Republican side has continued to learn and know what to do within the government to get what they want. And the left side is kind of just shut down. And it's like, no, we need to be educating ourselves on exactly how it works. And if you're up on that, like, good for fucking you. I applaud you for that, because I am not, and I need to be, so that I know what is going on and how I can make a difference when it comes to things like gun rights or these, because I have beliefs of like, I don't want things to go 180 degrees where guns are completely outlawed and any person's right to bear arms is completely, Piglet just hit me in the shin with a stick. But where the right to bear arms are completely taken away, because I support hunting and things like that. And it's scary to think that that's how it is, that's how it feels right now in our country, is it's either this or it's that. And there's no middle regulation, and it feels like it has to be this or that. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Why does it have to be, not everything is yes or no? I think abortion is, it's just fucking yes, you have the right to it.
Yes.
But yeah, so really just learning more, taking action where you can, and
opening space to talk about it. That's where the change happens. That's where you, with the feeling of being hopeless and feeling like we can't do anything, when you get together with your people and you talk about stuff and you put things into action, that's where things change. And with the way the world is changing right now, blatantly in front of everybody's fucking face, some major shit needs to go down. We need to burn the fucking Constitution that was made hundreds of years ago by white men and get some real change in this world. Like, the climate is changing. People are changing. Technology is changing. It's time to like flip the fucking table.
Exactly. It's just so insane that we have gone off of the same set of like rules and societal norms since this country was built.
Since people had slaves.
It's nonsense. Of like, since how are we
able to vote?
Yeah, we're moving on.
We're voting now.
We're moving on in this way and that way, but it's still within these parameters. And then you go back and you look at timelines of slavery, women's suffrage, equality. This is, let's see, it was in the 80s that the first woman was allowed to run the Boston Marathon.
God.
The 80s, that's when we were fucking born.
Yes.
So let's see, I might try and fact check exactly
And
that.
while you're looking, I will say that I feel like a reason why conservatives, Christians, Catholics, religious, whatever, whoever the people are that are like, don't take away my gun rights and women can't have abortions. A big reason why I think they have these opinions and have these feelings is because they know the world's changing too, and they feel like they are losing control.
Mhm.
Thus, they are putting things back on the chopping block and
Mhm.
ignoring things that are killing people
Yeah. So
daily.
did you see, this has been on Instagram, the Golden State Warriors coach, I think
Oh God,
Steve
yes.
Kerr, and his speech about the shooting last night was absolutely, I mean, that's what needs to happen. And I'm like, this guy's probably
Yes.
gonna get fucking fired.
Right?
And he knows it, took it into account, probably maybe even like talked to his whole team about it, and is like, this, you know, and it's a bullshit if that would ever happen, but that's exactly what people in his position need to do.
Yes,
is
yes.
use that platform to say exactly what he says. Like, we're taking, like, these people who just want the power.
Control.
They just want power.
And
And our
they feel like
government
they're
system
free.
needs to change to where it's not just about control. And that's going to be a long and hard battle to do. But none of these fucking people want what's best for the world. They want
No.
what's best for themselves and their immediate family, which is like, the money you have, like, it's just gonna go down your family fucking line. Like, what's the
Yeah.
point? What is the point? You're not doing anything better for the world at all. But you also are so tunnel vision to think that you can't even look and see that you're destroying your family's future, your kids' future, your grandkids' future, your great grandkids' future. Like,
It doesn't matter if you have money or not, the sun will burn down on your fucking crops.
exactly.
And like floods will happen and hurricanes, all these natural disasters will occur. And even if you go to a public, like private school, you can afford to go to a private school. Who knows? Someone maybe bring a gun there, or STDs, or
Mhm.
XY. There's just so many people on the face of the planet that everything is possible. And honestly, the older generation, the conservative generation, is slowly dying out. And our numbers, as far as like liberal people, our numbers, it's going to increase, and we are going to overpower them. Whether it happens in a few months, few years, few decades, it's going to fucking happen. And I just feel like this is kind of their last grip to try to hold on to controlling people that they think are lesser.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe I'm living in like a very sheltered West Coast liberal world, which yes, we are. We are.
Mhm.
We live in California and Washington. It's like extremely conservative or liberal, sorry.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to get out into the world enough to like go to middle America and like actually talk to, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
talk to the people who are living in these lies and like being from generation to generation being told these false truths. And it just blows my mind how we can be so close-minded because of our environments.
Yeah, it's so insane. It feels like a old school like royalty where they only, it was like incest because they had such a belief that the bloodline had to stay the same. And it's like, I feel like that's what's happening is like they're holding on to something that it is now. They haven't let the outside come in. They haven't let things change. So now we're becoming like demented and disabled because we're not growing out of the bloodline.
Yes.
In a quick correction, it was 72 that women were allowed to run the Boston Marathon. Still not that long ago. That was 15, 16 years before I was born or something. Yeah. And I mean, my mom was alive. Like, that was to run 26.2 miles by choice. Yeah. Women were told, no, you can't. Like, what?
like middle finger, fuck you. Watch me. I'm gonna even just the control, man. It's like you feel that tiny and insecure that you feel like you have to control other people's lives. Like, why don't you go to therapy instead of like shooting up elementary schools?
Yeah, or that's just a whole nother subject as well. Again, like mental health, they all tie into each other. I think all of these topics, and if people can't see the like domino type effect that these things have, they're just blind.
Yeah.
But there's a huge mental health issue in this world, which is healthcare. Healthcare goes back to abortion, and it's all a fucking web, a messy web, and no one who has the real power or control is stepping up and saying, look, we need to solve this. And you know what? I think many of us now could at least appreciate someone who is at least trying and putting the effort and can say, hey, this is going to be a long, hard road. We don't know how it's going to look, but we're goddamn it going to try.
Yeah.
And no one's fucking even trying. Like I said, the people below, at below state even maybe are trying. And as it goes up the ladder, people just stop because they're scared and they don't want to lose their position. And or again, they probably start to feel as we feel, like helpless because they want to make a change, but they know no one's going to listen to them and they're just going to vote them out or something. And you have to stop being scared of that kind of. You have to have enough people around you, I guess, to not be scared. You have to know that if you are put in the position to where you have a voice and you've used it and now you're getting shut down, that there's enough people below you who will it will keep going and going, and it won't just stop with you. But people are so frustrated now too that, yeah, you're right. Like violence is a huge issue and people are terrified of it. I mean, like even like police, I'm sure, are terrified these days of police violence because it got so bad with police being bad and creating the violence that the tables have turned on them, and because people just let it get to the fucking worst case scenario that people get fed the fuck up and
somebody dies.
It's like, and we can't stop any of it. How are we not seeing this pattern? It's fucking the definition of insanity.
I think we need to stop looking to politicians for change and take another platform and maybe look to celebrities, because honestly, celebrities are doted over more than politicians.
100%, and they're on the social platforms.
Yeah. And it's just like, where the fuck are our priorities? Like individual, yes, I understand we have our own priorities, but like as a societal whole, we are watching Kardashians more than we're watching, like learning, picking up a fucking book and looking at what a 7 weeks fetus actually looks like. And then even if you are doing that, finding the correct, true information, like we need to get our hands on true information that we are seeing for our own eyes and our own hands, and like touching these things and being like, I know for a fact because I have seen it, I have felt it, I have heard it, I've touched it. You know what I mean? Like we really need to start taking a different approach to everything. It's time to start rewriting absolutely fucking everything.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a kind of a catch-22. I feel like social media and celebrities and all of that, because hold on one sec. Sorry, dog interruption. But catch-22 in that there are good and bad of celebrities and like social media, because people, I get what you're saying, like people will listen to these celebrities that they idolize, but then you get stuck in the, I feel like the pattern of you're and where what we're kind of in right now is like you're only getting news from what you believe in. You're not seeing the other side, and I think you do need to see the other side to understand the argument in full.
Also,
and people are just getting up on their soapbox and saying this is what I believe and this is true and this is real and this is just what people start to parrot out and like are not hearing anything else. And there's a lot of issues that you do need to hear, like both sides to understand it, and then there's some issues that are just fucking wrong. But again, that's me saying that, and there could be completely, you know, obviously people who could say that it's not wrong. This dog is killing
within that too, the news that we are getting from either right, left, the Kardashians, what the fuck ever, it's all curated. It's all not truly real.
Yeah, exactly. False realities. We're in a state of avoidance because everything's so fucked and has been for a couple years. I think that and people have shut down and they've turned to those. I mean, I watch shitty reality TV because it is mindless and dumb, and
you need to shut your brain off sometimes.
And it's complete trash, and it is like totally, you know, you could be spending your time doing something different, sitting in silence, reading a book, I don't know, but like I said, it's that mindlessness that you want your brain to shut off, and you need some kind of entertainment. But it's like I feel like I'm drawn to it because I don't have that kind of drama in my life. So I have like that capacity to watch other people do stupid shit. And I'm just like, thank God I'm not a fucking idiot like that.
Yeah.
But and it's also unbelievable that these people are real. And some of it's like curated and made to happen. And like, you know, they reality TV's taken over the fucking TV world. So things happen in their lives and they purposely bring it up in front of the camera to cause drama. So it's not fucking reality. And these people are, you know, they're real human beings. You could touch them, you could see them, but their lives are completely unrelatable and not real to us. Like that is actually not reality. That is not reality. TV would be watching you or I go about a day, would be much more reality than rich ass motherfuckers in the 1% having a tea party and arguing. But
and the fact that technology has changed, thus our brains are changing, our attention span, what we choose to spend our time doing. Like I was like, when I was sick and at home, I was like so bored, and I just like caught myself like going in a loop from going to Instagram to Facebook, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Same.
And I have like 20 books around my bed that could like help me with real life shit, like planting a garden, which the cost of food these days, oh my God, Taryn, what's happening?
Exactly. That's where I think
switch.
That's why I think everybody's in more of a state of avoidance. Food, gas, everything. The world's in shambles. Our country even more so. That and I've always done this, from the simplest things to not like when I start to feel overwhelmed, I feel like I just shut down. Like if I have a shit ton to do, if I don't have a plan and a list, then I'm just like, I don't know where the fuck to start. And I'll catch myself in that loop, or just like sitting there like all like paralyzed with like what do I even do? And you just have to finally be like, okay, get the fuck up and pick up that stick to start, and you're on your way
down if you need to.
Like you have to start with one thing, and you know that's where we're at. I think right now is like we have to start with one thing, and if that means that you've listened to this and immediately after you go and read some of the articles or check out the organizations that are in support of reproductive rights, like see what it is you can do, how you can help research what your county, state, anything in that level is, to
Or go egg the pro-life protest. Go egg those sons of bitches.
I mean, even to arbitrary things where our property is in a HOA. Not like it's, I don't feel like it's your typical one because of where it's at. But like, I want to be on the board of that because I'm like, I don't even trust people at the smallest level right now to be making decisions that are going to affect my life, which could be as simple as like, oh, we're going to raise the fee or whatever. Like, for what? Are you fixing my fucking road? Like, how much of the road am I paying for? Like, I'm paying you this, but I still have half a mile of my own road that I need to fix, and you're not fixing the road that I pay you to fix, you know, like, so I fucking hate politics. I always have. And it's just because I get so frustrated. And when I get frustrated, I can shut down and just like completely walk away and avoid it altogether. Or I just see red and I want to punch somebody in the balls and in the face and just like, I can't control my anger sometimes.
I'm right there with you.
So that's where just the shutting down comes in, because then I'm just like, I'm gonna get so mad. I mean, when Donald Trump was president, I still can't really hear his name, and my mom is like the same way, without just immediately wanting to punch anyone who has like a positive thing to say about him, even when it's like, oh, taxes or this or that for that people. I'm just like, aside from like not even political wise and whether there may have been some good or anything, as a human being, he's a fucking terrible person, and that's all I can see. And that's what matters to me, and what I can see through it is like, if you're a fucking terrible human, I cannot be around you, cannot hear their voice, don't want to see them, and then that puts me into the avoidance. And I think that really maybe that's when things took a major turn, or maybe it was just for me when I started noticing it, is like when he was in office, and I think many people felt that same kind of frustration of like, what the fuck is actually happening? And
so I will say, the world being in the state that it is, us being at the age that we are, I feel like you and I and our partners, our families, we are starting to try to make changes in our lives that will set us up for the future. Like, you guys are starting to move out to your property. We've had our property for about 8 years now. We're starting to like get a decent rotation of like crops going on. What in your current life state do you think that you are doing to work on sustaining your life, being better with your mental health? Because I feel like a lot of people, when shit like this goes down, they're like, oh, I just want to run away. I just want to run away. Where are you going to run away to where it's going to be better? You know what I mean? Like, when you run away from something, you're not, especially something like abortion laws changing. Like, you cannot, like,
there's no
our political system, you cannot fucking get away from that unless you go to like Canada. And then even there, if you do like become a new citizen or whatever, like hypothetically speaking, like, people just want to run away. And I fucking get that. Do not get me wrong, especially when my capacity is like
at its level
to my fucking, I don't even know, because that's where I'm at right now. But what do you feel like you are doing in your day-to-day life to try to make the world a better place for you, your family? Like, what does that look like for you? Because maybe if we share our things, it could help whoever's listening.
Right. Give them some ideas of what they could do or whatever. So I don't know. I don't feel like I'm doing anything big enough to help anything much bigger like around me. As I mentioned, like, I hate politics and as arbitrary as it sounds of like wanting to be on like the board of the HOA, but that also, I mean, has brought up the desire to be on town council possibly as well, because living in a small town, I mean, any town, but I feel like being in a smaller town, it feels like more of a possibility to get that position and to see an impact and make a difference. And I think that I would represent a large amount of people in this area who moved here for the same reasons I did, and or have lived here, i.e. like my boyfriend being born and raised here, that you know, I moved here, but I share the same beliefs and lifestyle that he does. And I think that my specific town has had an influx of a lot of people from different areas coming in, and from bigger areas where they want money, power, those kinds of things, and that idealism is coming here.
Yes.
And I understand we need growth and things like that, but I may think this very naively, think there's a much better way to go about it. And so I do have that in the back of my mind of something that I like maybe aspire to doing, to be able to make some kind of difference. As far as at the like self level, as preaching to the choir of everyone, I'm sure the last couple of years have been insane. A lot has happened. I really didn't feel the hit and throes of COVID until my dog died. And I feel like that's because at the beginning, it led me to getting out of a toxic kind of work environment. At least it was like mentally toxic for me, and pushing me to do my business fully on its own, and without the gym or things shutting down, I may not have fully taken that step. So I was like, felt in a good place for that. I was like, had to shut down and had to reframe things, and it was a good thing for me. But then all these things hit, and it sent me into like a downward spiral after Socks died, of being like completely unhappy. And my dad could see it and hear it as I was talking to him. And I wasn't talking to my mom that much during the time because she was really sick at that time too. I couldn't even tell her that Socks died because she was like stuck in the hospital alone for like 3 weeks. So we were like, we're not telling her, like, because she'll just, I mean, like, she loved that dog so much too. It's like, we cannot tell her while she's alone
and trying to recover.
Yeah. And, you know, my dad couldn't even go see her or anything when she was sick, and it took a little bit to figure out what was wrong and whatnot. But yeah, so yeah, it was hard. I had a lot of internal things coming up. It wasn't just like my dog dying. It just brought up a lot of shit, and I felt completely stuck and unhappy with where I was at, and having no idea what the fuck to do, where to go, what I wanted, or anything like that. And maybe I could think of it like if I put more thought, but right now I can't really tell you when the switch happened. I think just having a couple visits like at home and having some like kind of major blowouts, but that got like really deep-seated feelings out, and being able to come out the other side of them with Andrew, kind of just a major release, I guess, of all this emotion, and through some very dark days and times though.
That's what it takes sometimes, man.
Yeah, and to get it out, like, it kind of feels like, oh, it spiraled out of me slowly but surely. Yes. And I have found that I feel like I'm taking a little bit better self-care by prioritizing some time to myself, or being able to recognize when I might be getting in a certain mindset or mental state. And I think we've maybe talked about this with drinking before or whatnot, but I like to drink. I like to, you know, be able to have a few cocktails or whatever and have a good time. I want to go like party sometimes and drink too much, but
yeah, and get stupid.
Yeah, I have also
get stupid.
I have fully recognized when I'm in a bad state of mind that substances are not going to help and I need to avoid it.
Yes.
And I think like that was a major step in realization of like, I don't think I have a problem by any means, but I have recognized that there are times that it makes my mental state a lot worse, whether it's like the during the drinking or activity, or if it's the after of just more depression about it and feeling shitty about myself.
Yes.
So I've just become a lot more self-aware of how certain things affect me, and I'm upfront about it with people. Like if I feel like a friend is like kind of pressuring me, like, oh, come on, let's go. I'm like, I told you I don't want to, and I'm not going to be shy about it. I'm telling you, like I've said it out loud over the past year and a half of like, when people are really feeling like, when I feel like they're putting the pressure on me, I'm like, I'm not in a good mental state to drink right now. And that like really shuts people up, because they're like, oh, like, one, you're serious, and two, like, wow, you really like told me that. Like, I don't like whether they feel like they like too much information or something. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I will tell you, like, we have been taught to like hide our emotions and mental state way too much and shove it down. And I'm gonna be like
real.
Like, yeah, you need to be able to know how to handle your emotions, but I also think that it is okay and appropriate to tell people that, because it doesn't make an excuse to like yell or scream or whatnot at somebody. But when you can be honest about like where it's coming from, again, it may at least create a little bit more of an understanding. And it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be, you don't need to apologize for it or something like that. It just means that, again, understanding of where it came from can change the reaction of all people involved, and help people around you to understand, so that they can help you as well if they're close enough to you to actually help. Some people might not be, or and be real. Like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Or real enough of a friend. I'm so tired of living in a society and place that you're around people who just like aren't real and just want to hide things. And so basically just trying to be way more aware of what it is that I need so that I can better handle my reactions, so that I am not sending out this, like, affecting other people in the ways that I don't want to, and helping them get a better understanding of how I work, and hopefully opening that up for them to help me understand how they work. And everyone just has a better understanding of each other, and you can learn how to talk to people and move on from things instead of just fucking be stuck in a hole. And I'm hoping that grows into being able to help other people at large, and my community and the society and things like that. But it does have to start with your own self changes and self-help. 1000%. And I think everyone needs it. Maybe people have already had these realizations or always been good at it, but I think the most of us do need to figure out how to help ourselves before we can help others. It's the classic cliche of put your own oxygen mask on first. And that's what I feel like I'm doing right now. So I don't feel like I'm doing that much for others at the moment, because I'm still just focusing on keeping myself alive and well.
It's like the question that I asked was like a huge question, and it brought you back to like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, it's a big question, and yes, it started 2 years ago, and it's going to continue to go on for the rest of your life. Like that's also like, especially coming back into the like Roe versus Wade being on the chopping block, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to need to be a constant effort, and you're going to like be on top of your game sometimes, and some days you're going to need to take a mental break and watch some shitty like TV or whatever, or like space out on the internet. But it's just, people think that so many things in this world are black and white, and we've all been fed this like fantasy fake reality that life is great and it's all awesome and we're dancing around and having fun and it's so good. But like, it's so consuming. It's hard. It gets ugly. It gets emotional. And that's just part of life and part of being a human. And we will get through this and we will make changes because we constantly are, and because we are people with our heads above water for the most part, and we're going to constantly continue to try and trudge. And for me personally, I have a tiny young man to raise, and I have a lot of things that were taught to me, just like, and not even like taught, like just things that I was like subject to, fucking Disney movies for shit's sake. You know what I mean? Like things that are just in our lives, in our society, that mold what we think this current reality, this current world should be like. Like Jesus Christ, if you think about ancient Greeks, that was a whole nother time. You know what I mean? Like we have so long to go. We have so long to go. And I think that we are truly doing our best. And it's going to be up and it's going to be down. And it's started 4 years ago. It started 9 years ago. And it's going to continue to go on. And I just am so glad I have you by my side.
Yes.
Pal. I really like your head and your face and your friendship. And I'm so glad that we are doing this podcast together and that we are reaching out to awesome people like Caroline and being like, hey, let's connect. And I just think that we need to keep on trying and keep on reaching out and for real, truly flip every single script we've ever been taught, every false reality, every fairy tale ideology that we thought this world was going to be, because fuck, the seas are rising, the ocean is turning into acid, people are getting killed on the daily, and our personal choices are at stake. That will save our lives. Abortions saved my life multiple times.
And and people just they don't see outside their own bubble. I think the majority of people anyways don't, and hopefully that is what's changing. And by being able to have conversations with people and then like have conversations like this, again, like the whole point of the podcast, I'll say it over and over probably every episode, is that like it's relatable on some level, and if anything it just can inspire one person to think a certain way or to not be afraid to say like, they're like, okay, yeah, that's something that helps them, is to be upfront and honest and not be ashamed of a little thing. There's plenty of shit I'm still scared to do or don't say and get, shut down or whatnot. But like I said, there's certain things that I have totally taken the power over. And if that helps someone else to be able to say, to a friend, like, hey, I don't want to drink because I'm not mentally fucking sound right now. Like, don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to tell someone like you're not in a good mental state. And if you feel like you need to be alone, that's fine. Be alone. I understand that everyone needs their own time, but there's plenty of times. I had a friend recently, she still is, I think, going through a rough time, but we were supposed to hang out and then she wanted to be alone. She was having her day, went south, and it took a little bit of prodding before I really like left her alone. I'm like, are you sure? Like, because there was times that I really wish that someone was around to take me out of that zone and to force me to have like gone and hung out with them. But there's also times where it was okay for me to be alone and I was fine. I'm like, no, I just really need to like lay outside and think or let my mind go through it all and it will be okay. But there was times that I was like, yeah, I'm in a deep, dark place and I need someone who can either just sit there with me or listen to me or talk about something else to make me know that like, yeah, it is going to be okay. And so
it's okay, I'm just trying to be not more be okay.
Yeah. And so I think because I went through that, then I know that, and then no one knows that I did. So how many people do I know or of my close friends are going through that and I don't fucking know? So I will make an extra effort to like let them know that I am definitely there for them, whether that's as a soundboard or to do nothing or just like whatever you fucking just know that I am here and you are definitely not fucking alone, even if you don't know anyone going through what you're going through. Like you're not alone to go through it. Like they don't have to be going exactly what you're going through, but they can still be there for you and help you find someone who is, if you need to talk to someone who's going through the same thing. But yeah, that's, like I said, the whole point is for at least an episode, one person to be able to say like, yeah, I relate to that, and that's
Let's talk
it.
about it. Yeah.
But my battery's kind of slowly starting to go down here. This battery sucks, the speaker sucks, this computer's failing me a little bit, but
Well,
but yeah,
shall we wrap it up?
Yep. And I mean, I don't know, like I said, if we got much of anywhere aside, I think it's in June that the Supreme Court makes the final decision on Roe versus Wade. And yeah, we may not be able to do anything about that, but we do need to be prepared for what could happen. And I think everyone then needs to, like, we do need to research and read and know like what the next steps would be if it happens, and how you can help and how you can just be a part of anything, and what we would do, what we need to do to get back into action and flip it back around if it does get overturned. We have to prepare for the worst and
absolutely
not just wait for it to happen. So I think we need to just
then be all bummed out once it does happen.
Yeah,
like, be bummed out now.
Yep.
Accept that this we might not have the choice, and prepare to go into battle and make friends with abortion care providers and support them, because the work that they're doing is fucking huge and their lives are at stake, honestly. Because people are fucking crazy.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm sure this will come up again for sure. I just wanted to at least be able to create this one episode to talk mostly about it without feeling like people could know like this is what we're gonna fucking talk about and go off about.
I'm going to a thing tomorrow night on abortion. It's my girlfriend who's a death doula. She and her birthing doula friend do these doula cafes once a month, and this month the topic is on abortion. Last month it was about lactation, so it's just like they're very like on trend with what's actually happening in the world. And I'm sure I will come out of that with a lot of information. I'll ask her if I could record it or something, or try to find some way to get the information that I gain tomorrow night to you, to the podcast, to whatever. But I'm just glad that we're talking about this.
Definitely. Wait, so is it like open to public? Is it free? Do you have to register? Like tell people about it in case for those that are there in Tacoma that might want to go if they listen to this on time.
It's free, and you register on Eventbrite, or if you go to my girlfriend Nicole's Instagram at
send me the Eventbrite link and her Instagram, and I'll put it in the show notes as well, and I'll get this get this up this afternoon too, so hopefully some people might be able to wait. It's tonight or tomorrow?
It's tomorrow night.
Okay, okay, cool.
Her Instagram handle is Forget Me Not Doula with dots in between all the letters.
Okay.
For all the words, but yeah, I'll get that information to you and we can put it on there. It's gonna be good, and it's something we all need to get together and talk about. I'm just so glad that like abortion is something that I am very passionate about. A woman's choice is something that I am ridiculously passionate about, and being a safe human and a woman of sound mind who can make good choices for the future, for our world. We just all need to get together and talk and share our stories and share things that we're shameful about, not shameful about, just like go at this journey with each other, because we have a long fucking road ahead of us, even if it's another 40 years down the road. Like if you think about the women's movement back in the 70s, like some of those women are still here and are still doing the work. And it's not going to end.
Exactly. It's not. Unfortunately, you thought that it would, and we wouldn't have to have this argument again, but it we have
Here
to
we
be
are.
ready to do it.
Cheers,
And
sister.
one other quick thing, as you brought up, talking about like, not being afraid to talk about things you're like maybe feel shameful about or something, is
that society has made us feel shameful about.
The other day, so we've been having wrestling open mat practices on Monday evening, so it's all ages, like K through 12, and we have mostly our kind of like little guys there right now. But at the end of practice Monday, we asked, what is one thing you want to work on like next time you're here? And I mean, these kids are 8 years old, between like 6 and 8, I think, is the majority. There's like one little 4-year-old girl, but so anyways, these kids are like, oh, I want to work on like listening better next week, so I understand the move before we go into the drill, because I'm not listening. And another's like, I need to work on like a specific thing, like keeping my elbows in when I go in for a shot. So the fact is, or the point here is, they recognized something they wanted to work on. And one of the coaches at the end, he said, it's like, I just want to tell you guys that what you just did was very brave. It is not easy for us to recognize our weaknesses. And it's even harder for us to say that in front of people.
Yes.
So you guys are very brave. That was a very courageous thing to do. And we need to do more of that. And this is like a safe place to do it. And I was just so thankful for him to have said that, because it didn't really cross my mind in that way. Maybe because there have been situations in which I've done that myself. This is what I need to work on or want to work on. And as these kids, I think it was super important to tell them that, because they didn't, maybe in that group of people, they might've felt safe, right? So it didn't really cross their minds, but for it to be pounded into their mind that like what they did was actually like good and brave, and they should do more of it, was, I think, super important, because they are so young. That to learn that at a young age is so important, because now as they grow, hopefully they aren't afraid to say what they're not good at, especially in front of a group of people. And that's just what being in a tight-knit wrestling group, growing up in that, like, I feel like that's maybe why I didn't feel. But as you go into different groups of people, meet different friends or whatever, they might not have the same reaction. They might make fun of you for saying what your weakness is. But if you can start to really build your confidence and stand, this I feel like this sounds lame to say, but stand in your power, then you can stand in it with around anyone and anything, and not let someone like take you down. So,
and if you do it at a younger age, that's such a stronger foundation than the like people at our age who are doing it in their fucking 30s.
Yeah. And so, but if you are just now starting to do it in your 30s, exactly, it's going to be long and hard, and much harder than if you would have started doing it at a younger age. But you just can't let that someone else's idea of what shame is or put that feeling on you. Like, you just have to
accept it and work at it.
Don't be afraid of your weaknesses. It's the only way you get better. And at the simplest form of a little kid at wrestling practice keeping his elbows in for a shot. And that's a lot of my analogies. The same thing with has to do with working out. The shit I hate to do, it's shit I hated. Battle ropes in the beginning are things that I love, because I hated it because I sucked at it. It was my weakness. So I kept doing it until I began to like it, because I got better at it and I became a strength. And so your weaknesses can 100% become your strengths if you just allow yourself to recognize what they are and share them, because people might help you like get stronger in that, in those aspects. So
just like we were all born into this world at different times with different parents, we're all walking different journeys of this life. And it is too easy with social media to compare yourself to other people with what's going on. You just need to accept that where you are is where you are, and what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing.
And you might be in the fucking throes of the suck right now.
Yes.
But if you just gotta keep swimming and talk to people about it. Because if you're just going through it alone, then it might be harder to get out of. But I don't think it feels good to know that we all go through the suck it goes through
Yes.
phases. It may be a short phase, it may be a long phase, it may come back often, but peaks and valleys, my friends, it's normal. And as much as it sucks as how hard as it is, you just have to, I mean, you just got to keep going, and we're in that right now. We just got to keep going and push through this sucking hard and hope to see the light at the end of the tunnel, where we don't end up on the dark side of where this all could go. Gotta keep a little bit of hope and just keep fighting that. Okay, I don't know exactly where I got cut off, so sorry about that. I was outside and my phone got too hot, so it shut down for a second. I didn't even know it, like it was in the pocket of the chair. I didn't even notice it got too hot, but my computer battery is definitely drifting fast. But so what's the last thing you heard from me?
Oh God.
Do you remember?
We were talking about being where you're at in life and embracing the suck, and know that no matter how long you're in the suck for, you can get out of it.
Right.
You can get out of the suck, even though, and like with depression, it's so much more than like, oh, getting out of the suck.
Right.
It's like consuming, and getting out of your bed is hard. And
yes.
Lifting your head up and feeding and putting water in your body is hard.
Yes.
I've been there. We have been in that suck, but you are not alone, even though you feel so very alone.
And we're in the suck right now of like what's happening with women's reproductive rights and whatnot. And we just have to, again, just even with that, keep fighting, can't give up, have to get through it. And even if it goes the other way, again, we have to get through the suck and keep fighting, because guess what? Like, you just can't give up and sit in it and let it just happen and stay overturned. We have to keep going for it. So yeah, we just have to know that there's a community around us, and hopefully everyone does have at least someone that they can talk to. And as hard as it is to do that, gotta find someone to be able to, and that could be, a therapist if you are able to afford such a thing. You don't feel like you have a friend or something, but who you might, even if you had a friend, and you can afford a therapist, that might be a good route to go. But yeah, we're all in a bit of a suck right now. Even if you're riding on a high wave of your personal life, you can't ignore the fucking hurt of the world and our country going on right now. So everyone's at least in that part together too. So yeah, just remember that we're here for you.
Here for it. We're in this together. We can't get off this ride.
We can't, unfortunately.
Unless we die.
Don't do that. All right, well, we're gonna wrap this up, and we'll be back. We'll have show notes with articles to read about the Roe versus Wade abortion.
Shout out to Caroline.
Supports. Yes, Caroline is amazing Caroline, with all this information. If anyone else has any they want to share, or again, stories, like always happy to hear that and listen. And Amber also sent me the information that I'll put in the show notes for the death and birth doula event in Tacoma, for anyone listening up there that they might want to attend. That will be there, or just to even follow her friend. Forget Me Not, is that what you said?
Yeah, Forget Me Not doula.
Forget Me Not doula, for anyone interested in following.
She is a death doula, which I don't know if I talked about it on this podcast, but she is a woman who helps you with afterlife planning, which is extremely important because we all die.
I think you have mentioned it before, but we can definitely talk more about that another time for sure, and introduce that topic. But for now, we will let you guys go and talk to ya soon.
Later.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, Leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.